Welcome to Game Set Matchup, the podcast where we talk everything partnerships, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hello everyone, I'm Carl Busby, your host of Game Set Matchup, #1 partnerships podcast. So we're back today with something a little bit different. This is a special episode of a new series where we focus on a particular subject that's either like a hot topic, or something in the current trends, and just seeing how this is impacting businesses, but most importantly, how partnering with the right business can really, really help you. So I caught up today with Sam Lomax and Jonathan Withers from Experian, who head up the cyber agent team at Experian to talk about the dark web and how they're helping businesses to protect themselves. You've probably heard of Experian before. Absolutely massive business, have been around for a very, very long time, and best known for their credit reference agency, but they're involved in a lot of different products today. So we discuss exactly what the dark web is, how your data can end up there, but most importantly, how Experian can help you, your business, employees monitor and protect their personal details from fraud and ID theft. Experian are on Finder if you want to speak to them and find out how they can help your businesses and employees protect themselves from fraud, ID theft, and monitoring your data on the dark web. You can sign up to Finder and request a call with them today. All that's left to say is enjoy this week's special episode. Hello everyone, welcome to Game Set Matchup. So this is a podcast where we discuss all things partnerships. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different with the podcast, and a little bit of a sort of a special episode. This might turn into a series. We shall see. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into a subject not a lot of people know much about, including myself, and that subject is all about the dark web. So yeah, as I said, we will potentially do this as a bit of a series, but yeah, really looking forward to having this conversation. So without further ado, obviously as always, I'm your host, Carl Busby, and today I'm joined by Sam Lomax and Jonathan Withers, who head up the cyber agent team over at Experian. Hello and welcome, Sam and John.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm the Global Sales and Growth Manager for Cyber Agent, which means that I look after all our existing clients and I support them with sales growth and marketing.
Good morning. I'm Jonathan Withers. I'm the Global Sales Director for Experian Cyber Agent for new business and existing clients of Experian on a global basis. So happy to join you this morning.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Obviously, again, you just introduce yourselves there, but could you just tell us again just a little bit more about kind of the actual sort of cyber agent team and exactly what it actually is all about and what it does? And who wants to go first?
Yes, sorry. So we are. Sorry. So we're based. We're part of Experian. We're a unit within Experian called CSID, which is effectively a team that is a global team based out of the UK, where we work with the Experian sales teams on a global basis to introduce this service to existing customers and new customers of Experian, on a basis that basically they have this service on a B2B to C level, where an organization, albeit a retail, a bank, part of a government, airlines, etc., all types of companies can have this as a service to be offered off to their employees and consumers or customers across the globe. We look at both consumers and employees because, unfortunately, the nature of hackers and the dark web never sleeps, and they don't distinguish between whether an employee or an individual as a customer. So that's really who we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that probably leads us on quite nice, actually, to just kind of like was explain kind of what your obviously what the team sort of does, but like just to delve a bit more, specifically into what exactly is the dark web, because obviously a lot of people will probably be listening and not really understand the what the term sort of means. I mean, I guess we can deduct hearing dark web sounds bad, but what does it what does it actually sort of mean? And and in terms of guys, what you guys are obviously doing to help about it.
Absolutely. So the web that we all access operates in 3 different parts. So you have the bright web, the deep web, and the dark web.
Right. Okay.
So the bright web is actually the small section we all access using our browsers and regular search engines. The bright web, you might be surprised to know, only accounts for 5% of the information held on the entire web.
Wow.
Which is crazy,
that is
right?
Yeah.
So the remaining 95% is made up of the deep web. Now, that's only accessible through specific searches and logins, and that includes information like subscription databases, and as you might expect, government sites and military data as well. So moving on from that, within the deep web, we have a very, very small section, which is approximately 0.1%, and it's that's known as the dark web.
Right.
So this can only be accessed via a special browser like Tor, and some people may or may not be familiar with that, but we won't delve into the reasons why. It basically has no search engines. It's completely unregulated. And obviously it's a place where criminal activity thrives. Clearly.
Absolutely.
It's something that I didn't realise until a few weeks ago. There are at least 500,000 regular users of criminal websites on the dark web, which I think is mind-blowing.
That is mind-blowing.
These people, all they want is your data, your assets, and they want your identity. So, they've made the dark web a place where you've got stolen data, leaked data, the sale of drugs, guns, forged documentation, and even people, believe it or not, can be bought and sold with a robust amount of anonymity, which is... I mean, it's just super scary. You can't even get your head around it.
Wow. I mean, it's mind-blowing, fascinating and scary all at the same time, I think.
All rolled up in one, 100%. So just some facts about the UK. The cost of businesses in fraud losses are actually up to 219 billion. That's billion, not million. And personal losses are at 8 billion. And I just want to say, because we are now in December, it's worth highlighting that during the festive season, fraud is actually 43% higher than usual. So people really, really need to stay alert. It's going to be crazy out there. It really will be.
I think, it's obviously for me, probably like a lot of people, you hear these stats, and which, again, as I said, just absolutely mind-blowing. And I think a lot of the time, we just think, it's not going to happen. It won't happen to us. It's just not. It's not. I don't know anyone it's happened to. So all of these types of things. You hear about all this identity stuff, but I mean, like I said, people are just getting more and more, clever about how they do these things.
They're clever.
And really we need to protect ourselves. So, what types of partnerships would you say we formed like so far, and how those helped businesses with the sort of dark web in general?
Yeah, no, good question. Basically, all Experian cyber agent clients of ours are effectively a partnership. We form a partnership with them within a B2B to C environment. We work across the globe with large organizations that are cross-sector, who then provide our dark web monitoring solutions to their end users by kind of integrating cyber agent into their existing solutions and services, and also provide educational and awareness training on the issues surrounding the dark web and digital cybersecurity. A couple of examples of those are H3G, which is Hutchinson Large Telco, Global Telco. We work with them across the DAC region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And what they've done is they've embedded our dark web monitoring services into their online digital insurance policies.
Right.
They offer full insurance suite of solutions, but they wanted to add a product that would add additional value to their existing customers and offering, and provide a way to retain them and create loyalty. they recognise that phone hacking is a major problem. And as a way to tackle that, our dark web monitoring tool was a way to offer additional ID theft protection.
Yeah.
Another one is we work with a very large, it's global, but across the European sector we work with them, a partner company that provides professionally monitored security solutions for people's homes. And as part of that package, they offer protection for their customers' home, so, prevention, but also to include digital identity. And it's based on their 3 key elements of protection, which is prevent, detect, and resolve. So again, another partner that we have a different sort of mechanism with.
Yeah.
And then finally, another one is we're also working with a really interesting fintech, insurtech rather, in a company that provides a full technology suite of solutions to the insurance and finance sector and other organizations that gives individuals 360 protection of their identities and their digital footprints. And Cyber Agent, our solution, was the last puzzle of this part of this new product, so that they create loyalty, trust, and retention for their customers.
Yeah. So
a couple of examples, and yes, it's a big part of our world is working in partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I think obviously again you provided some, really, really good obviously examples there. Again, anyone that's listening, may have their own business, could potentially obviously fit into that. I think I've got a really good idea there now of how that, potentially where you could maybe help, their business as well. So yeah, really thanks for that. Links into my next question as well. Sort of obviously we talked about obviously the dark web now and kind of what it represents. How exactly does our sort of personal data sort of end up on the dark web in the first place? I think that's probably what a lot of people want to understand is like how does it get onto there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's our personal data is hacked, it's leaked. We can be manipulated into giving our data to a hacker, which is a technique known as social engineering. You could also become a victim of romance fraud too. That's probably an entire podcast on its own, to be fair. Once the cyber criminals have your data, that becomes their currency. And your personal information is then put up for sale on dark web marketplaces for others to purchase. So you've got the hackers, they can obtain data from things like data breaches. You've also got ransomware attacks, botnet attacks, and of course, the usual scams that most of us have been exposed to. And if you've not been exposed to, you will have seen them. So once a fraudster has purchased your data from the dark web marketplace, what they can do is clone your identity. They can set up accounts in your name, and then obviously they can also take over your existing accounts. So they could wipe you out financially.
Yeah.
So
unbelievable.
People need to be thinking about these things.
Yeah.
There's something that I think is, I don't want to say cool because it's horrendous, but in a way it's kind of ingenious. So in the dark web, you can even find training guides on how to be a successful fraudster. And you can, so nobody do that, obviously. But you can recruit like professional callers who will pretend to offer things like a refund in exchange for you providing them with your financial details. Wow. So this is what's known, they've got a name for it. This is what's known as crime as a service.
Wow.
And it's a readily available resource within the dark web. It's bonkers, right?
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, again, this is all, it's fascinating. I said, obviously scary at the same time. But I think, like I said, there's one of the reasons obviously why we're doing this podcast is just to get this awareness, out there and to get more people understanding. Because I think, I don't know, how long do you think is a dark webs? I mean, I guess it's been around since, sort of like the internet was sort of there, but I don't know. Is this something that's just...
You know what's weird? Is that Jonathan and I actually had this very conversation last week, we don't know the answer, but we think the same as you. We think surely when the internet was invented, it's got to have started at the same time. It's got to have somewhere. Somebody would want to use it for nefarious reasons, because that's just the way of our world, right?
Unfortunately, as always, there's the pros and the cons, like a lot of things. Obviously, the internet, we wouldn't be obviously talking right now if it wasn't for the internet. But like I said, these are the other sides of it. So there maybe like Jonathan, you want to answer this question. So like probably we've obviously talked a lot about dark web and kind of obviously what it's about. What mitigations or can we obviously basically put in place to stop our data getting on the dark web? I think that's one of the key things. Everyone's going to be sitting there thinking, I'm obviously thinking it myself now while I'm talking to you. what things can I do? Because it's a scary. It sounds like it's a very scary place. So
it is. And Sam has mentioned, I mean, we're now about into the time zone of it's getting really scary because Black Friday, Christmas shopping. So unfortunately, the nature of it, we can't ever 100% completely stop our data ending up on the dark web, simply because our data is out there in various databases, and if those get hacked, it happens. What we must remember also is that this is a day job, as Sam has explained, as training for hackers and fraudsters. They are always a couple of steps ahead of the game and are constantly working on new ways to obtain data from an unsuspecting public. It's not all bad news, though. We obviously have a service that is a product called Cyber Agent, which is a tool that basically operates in real time and alerts you to when your data has been found out on the dark web, on social media, being bought and sold, and being compromised on the dark web. It monitors everything from things like email addresses, home addresses, passports, passwords, financial details, medical data, and documents, and so forth. And once we find that, we provide you with information on an alert of what we found, where we found it, when we found it, and what to do next. And with the rise of ID theft, we work with organizations and obviously recommend that they have their employees and customers sign up for this protection service, whether it's part of an offering of a bank or an airline or whatever it is, to have this, so that they're giving some sort of assurance that their personal information is at least going to be monitored in the event that something happens and then alerted. We also advise using a password manager and changing your passwords regularly. Passwords is the sort of hub of all this, because once they've got access to passwords, it becomes very easy for them to, utilize that across things. We've got some stats maybe we can mention a bit later. And it's important to know, not use anything that's generic or personal to yourself. Think of complex sayings or words, or a combination of words, letters, special characters to foil those hackers, because passworded security is essential to them and to us. The easier it is for to be broken, they'll go after the easier ones. If they're more complex to break into, they'll leave that individual alone and go on to someone that's more suspecting. So really, it's kind of really trying to think a little bit ahead of the game of what they're trying to do. So that's what we think.
Totally. Well, I can attest to two things. I mean, I think I've previously spoken to Sam Lomax before, like, passwords. I mean, it's in our everyday life, everything that we do. And I've been, definitely someone that's, reused the same password as for every single site, because you think to yourself, how can I remember all these things? Like, I'll just, and we always generally tend to do, it's the, your wife's or your sons or parents, whatever, and then it's the date of birth. It's all the usual, things. I mean, I thought I was getting clever because I would use an @ symbol and use a little, exclamation here, which, probably years ago, maybe that did make a difference, but nowadays that's probably doesn't mean anything. But yeah, just, I think, I totally agree. I did pick up a password manager about a year ago. Keep telling my wife to do it as well, but she still hasn't done it. But it does make a huge difference, just so you don't have to think about, you can just obviously create, and it's all saved in one place. And then, like you said, you've got something, different, everything. And also just like, you said about the, the alerts and stuff. So like I said, I've actually got the experience. You didn't realize, I got that, through, it was through, I can't remember, I got it through another company, for the service. So, I've had it myself. Where I have had an alert pop up. As you said, I think another thing as well is I've had my email address for probably like 20 years. So the chances are that it's, it's probably been hacked multiple times. So I've seen it work, obviously in real time. It was really, really good. I think, well, it's a bit scary at first when you see the notification pop up because you're thinking, hold on, what's going on here? But, like I said, it gave you sort of like the best ways to mitigate. So it was really good. So just obviously we're talking about, obviously from like a personal space. So from a business perspective, what sort of scenarios may exist for business where, a data breach, could cause their data to sort of up on a dark web? And basically what exactly do we mean by, a sort of data breach? So businesses that maybe, people listening to it can get a better understanding of what that's about.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, businesses are particularly vulnerable for many reasons. The weak link is usually the employees. So there are several. Yeah.
Unfortunately. Okay. Yeah.
Everyone's very naughty now. There are several ways that a hacker can gain access to business and personal data. And that would be, or it could be, by way of an employee clicking on a bogus link. So a link via email. And what might happen is that link downloads malware onto their machine.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, malware is basically malicious software that allows the hackers access to company data, company systems, and obviously any sensitive and personal information they can get their hands on once they're in.
Yeah.
What is often noted as being on the rise is something called a ransomware attack.
Mm-hmm.
So what this means is that once the data has been stolen by the hackers, the fraudsters will then contact the company and demand payment for the files to be returned.
Right.
So if the company chooses not to pay, then that personal and sensitive data is released onto the dark web to then be sold to the highest bidder.
Right.
So that is a massive, massive challenge for businesses, and it happens all over the world. Every single day, we see a note of that.
Yeah.
And to give you a little more detail on the data breach, this usually occurs when a hacker identifies a vulnerability within a company's security structure or firewall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This then allows the hacker to steal data from those sites, and then the cyber criminals will put the compromised data up for sale on the dark web. So it's all about cash.
Yeah.
It's all about stealing the data, sticking it on the dark web, and getting as much money as you can for it.
Cool.
That's basically how it works.
Right. Yeah. I've heard the term obviously like ransomware and that kind of stuff before. Again, it's obviously heard about it. Luckily it's never. I don't know anyone it's obviously again happened to, but like you said, it's happening to, these sort of things are happening, sort of all the time. I think sometimes you see them in movies this is actually, happening in real life as well. And then just keeping on the subject. So, obviously we've talked obviously a bit there just about, how we're partnering. How do you sort of see the future, partnerships, with businesses in the space, and just again, anything that, potentially is, obviously change in the near future. Obviously, we've got a lot of technologies and stuff, new software platforms, stuff that are out there. So, just be good to just get your sort of view on where you sort of see that potentially going.
Absolutely. So we see education on ID theft and dark web data monitoring as still somewhat flying under the radar in the UK.
Yeah.
So as a comparison, consumers in the US completely understand the risks. And millions of that population already have a monitoring service in place as they understand the impact of having their personal data stolen, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not quite the same story in the UK and across other regions across the globe.
Yeah.
So education in this area is paramount to our partners' success. What customers need to understand is the implication of ID theft and having their personal data exposed on the dark web. And what we intend to do as part of our partnership program is to begin with education for our partners. So obviously, if they're aware of the risks, it makes it much easier to promote the value of Cyber Agent.
Absolutely.
What we're also looking at is different models. So how can we provide our service to different sectors, and what does that actually look like? Channel and partnerships are absolutely the way forward, and that landscape, as we all know, is constantly evolving and it's constantly changing shape. So the key for us is flexibility and diversifying in that area. We're also looking at how we partner with different types of platforms and technology providers in 2024. So that's our focus. For example, can we partner with ID verification solution providers? How do we fit into the fintech business area? What does it look like for facial recognition technology and document image validation solutions, etc.? I mean, there's a whole world out there that we could actually plug Cyber Agent into. We want our partners who are forward thinking, who already have great solutions and technology, and we want to create lasting partnerships whereby our products and their products become a complementary add-on to an already strong suite of solutions. And there's something quite interesting that we're looking at for next year and this year. So we're looking at providing a dark web data feed rather than adding our data just into a front-end platform. And what we're hoping is this will provide our clients with additional flexibility on how they would like to utilize and integrate our data. So we've got some quite exciting plans coming up, we hope.
That sounds amazing. I mean, obviously, just a couple of points. Education, such a big thing. We talked a little bit earlier in the episode. I didn't know a lot about. I don't know a lot about obviously the dark web and the stuff that obviously can go on. And I said, my wife, she wouldn't have a clue about it either. So, the education, I agree. It's a big piece. Businesses for everyone, involved. And and I said, no, it's like some exciting stuff there then to come.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
cool.
So that sort of leads on quite nicely. So we're at Experian. Sort of how are you sort of helping businesses, to prevent their customers or employees that ending up on the dark web? And, essentially, if it does get on there, so what exactly, what do you kind of do to help?
Yeah. So we've been doing this for over 16 years, actually, with companies across the globe. We're effectively sort of global leaders in this. We operate a multi-scale of identity theft protection programs across the globe, spanning literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of companies and hundreds of millions of active users actually engaged in registering for this service. We do it via banks, airlines, major credit card companies, insurance companies. A lot of insurance companies offering things like that. General sort of security companies, telcos, larger corporations and governments. And the key thing about this is we work with them to help them implement an identity theft protection education and an awareness program, which incorporates the technology as well. Because it's all very well just to have the technology, but it's actually what is the reason for it and what are the effects of this we've just been talking about this morning going on. So awareness and education is one of the biggest drivers and things we spend a lot of time with. And it helps organizations provide a strong digital protection message because everyone is digitally active nowadays, including children. We've all got digital footprints. So trying to provide them into, some sort of semblance of what's going on. Providing this as a proactive protection rather than a reactive, it's happened. Become proactive before any of these things happen. Protecting, as I say, both customers and employees. The hackers don't discriminate between either.
No.
My rule of thumb is that anyone that uses the internet or a cell phone is particularly at risk. That's pretty much everyone on the planet, give or take. So, this is what it is. And it's really just trying to protect and, detect that compromised information before, sooner than later. And turn this threat into a business advantage. Because, if you've got a company with your bank or whoever, and they offer this to you, you're unlikely to sort of leave that organization because they've provided this with you. So the service itself is called Cyber Agent, and it's technology that AI machine learning technology we've developed, as I say, over 16 years. And it effectively is proactively looking for the records that it's been asked to look for, both in the dark web and on social media. And it basically is a service that is doing that constantly, together with teams of analysts, cyber analysts, that are also looking for the similar records within the dark web. So we have technology and manual intervention on this. And it is looking at, the activity and then trying to help monitor, detect, alert, and then we provide resolution as well. So we have, this is what you need to now do next in the event that something has happened. And also, Sam mentioned, is, about training and educating individuals on this. You've probably picked up a couple of tips today, and hopefully people listening and hearing this will as well. And I think it's just being vigilant, trying to think ahead of what these people are doing. And that's really a service that, we provide, and happy to talk to anyone about.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think obviously the touching point about education, I think it's the key. I mean, this is like a lot of things, but like, we do just, not it's taken for granted. I mean, people, I said that we hear about it, people talk, might get talked about it's in movies and whatever that is, but actual real education, obviously, for me, like with my son, he's only 7, but like, I would like to think, as he's getting older, is to, teach him very early on, you need to be aware of this stuff, because, the earlier we do that, the more they're going to be switched on to be aware of these types of things, when, scammers or people that are obviously trying to get your data. So I think education, that is an absolutely massive piece. And then just obviously a little bit. So we talked a bit about the ID theft, and obviously how that's involved. And I think, most people, think about things like, you steal your credit card or your bank card details, or those common things, and, trying to obviously spend money. But with ID theft, could you just tell us just a little bit more about what is ID theft, and specifically?
What is it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. So, as we've already ascertained, identity theft is huge business for the fraudsters. In the UK, 24% of people have actually been victims of identity theft, which is actually the highest in Europe.
That's a huge number.
And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And a further 75% have been exposed to identity scams. Again, huge numbers. It is the fastest growing crime in the UK and likely the world. So in simple terms, identity theft means that a criminal has stolen your personal information with the sole intention to commit fraud. So the cyber criminals will use your information to buy things. They will obtain lines of credit, which is obviously quite scary. Or they'll use types of blackmail to demand financial compensation. So this happens in multiple different ways, including the scams that you might have seen or heard of, the text message scams or the WhatsApp scams, for example. Or it could even be a phishing email sent to your email address, which does often contain malicious links. Just to give people a very high-level overview, your common phishing email may look like they're from your bank. They may look like they're from an online store that you use quite frequently, or it could be a courier service. That's been quite popular recently.
Everyone wants to know, even if they haven't ordered something, they're like, oh, must be something someone sent to me.
Oh, and here's a link. Exactly. What they have in common is that they'll ask you to click on the link and they'll ask you to enter your personal details. And then what happens is they'll say you have a time limit, you have a time frame in which to do so. So they might say something like, your account will be closed if you don't take action within the next 24 hours. So what they're relying on is the fear factor. So we have to be more switched on when we're looking at, because we're all ordering so much stuff online all the time that we just forget. So we've got to start paying more attention. And this one might sound funny, and actually I did debate whether to mention it, but I have 2 friends who this happened to only like a few weeks ago, so I'm going to include it. You have something that is known as a sextortion scam. And this happens when a fraudster makes contact, usually via email, not always, they might text you, and they'll claim to have explicit images of you.
Okay. Yep.
And if you don't pay a ransom, again, here we go, within a specific time frame, then what they'll do is, they'll distribute to all your friends and family, to everybody in your contact list, okay? So, I mean, that's really frightening. Both of my friends came to me and I was like, well, let's think about it logically. You know, there are so many examples, hundreds, because the trends keep changing as the fraudsters come up with new ways to steal your data, steal your identity. But as Jonathan said earlier, what we've got to remember is this is the fraudster's day job. This is what they do. And unfortunately, they're very good at it, right?
Unfortunately so. Well, I was just going to say, I think, leading back to what we were talking about the education piece and like trying to prevent it before it happens, because to me it sounds like an ID theft thing is one of those things. Clearly it's harder to probably fix it once it's happened, than obviously preventing it before it happens. So that is again another really, really good example of why these sort of services obviously really, really help. And then just to wrap up, I mean, again, it's kind of, you touched on obviously a few of the points already in the previous questions and stuff, but just be good to know, for you guys in cyber agent, what does, a gold star partnership look like for you and, another business? So if anyone is, listening, and thinking this could be something, potentially of interest to us, what would you say, what does a gold star partnership look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think I'll take that. And we've covered some of the previous, the answers. But in short, we want partnerships that are, first of all, mutually beneficial for both parties, but also we want to make a beneficial difference for their customers. We're all about protecting consumers around the world against this threat. So we like to work with partners that understand or would like to understand the reality and the consequences of ID theft and this threat that is around us, the dark web, and how to treat this as potential to affect and to protect their consumers and their employees. Our goal is to collaborate on creating a solution that provides value, promotes customer retention, and committed to working with us to generate ultimately additional revenue lines for both parties as well. It's also important that we listen to new ideas from different sectors on how the data can be utilized. Sam's mentioned an idea that we've now are actually working in reality with. And this is how we both grow what we think is a mutually rewarding and beneficial partnership for both parties and understanding.
No, it's amazing. I think, again, people listening, it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, if you want to get involved, you want to have, mutual, a mutual thing there from both sides. You don't want it to be obviously completely sort of one sided. And I think, the products and stuff that you've got, there's potential out there for so many, different businesses to be educated and then, obviously potentially partner up with you guys. So it makes a lot of sense. So just come on to our final question. So just, I guess what will, Experian doing, in the future, to help businesses sort of combat stuff on the dark web? I don't know, in terms of like, any sort of like new tools or new, stuff. I think you already say, using sort of AI and sort of that deep learning stuff there already. But is there anything else, that you can sort of talk about that, is you'll be doing to help sort of businesses or, obviously people in the future?
So I think, summarising, it is going to be high level because, as you probably know, Carl, Experian has hundreds of different products that do lots of amazing things. But we have products that not only provide alerts when data is found in the dark web, but we also provide a breach service for businesses. So when they become victims of a data breach themselves, we have an entire team who provide products that aim to prevent and detect fraud. And we also have really strong relationships with partners such as CIFAS, who provide the UK's largest fraud database. So when all of our products are combined, they provide a really rounded solution that, again, prevents, it detects fraud, but it also supports the consumer through the identity theft journey, which is obviously, you know, super important.
Yeah. No, sounds amazing. Well, you know, for me, like I said, it just sounds like, you know, you can got a great sort of combination, you know, of products there. And if anyone that's listening that's got, you know, any sort of sort of need or say the ideas around wanting to obviously get this, you know, I think you know, this should come to this conversation with you guys. So, but again, I think you know, I'll just finish up by saying, I mean, for me, been fascinating. Really enjoyed obviously this conversation. I've learned a couple more bits this morning, and it's going to prompt me again to tell my wife to get a password manager. Now, also, you know, if anyone is listening who wants to get in touch, you know, and obviously speak to you guys, you know, you guys are on you know, Finder right now. We've got all the details will be in the description. So again, you know, really, really simple to come on, create an account. And, you know, you could be having a call with you know, today or whenever you're listening to this podcast. So listen, just again for me, just want to say thank you, Sam, thank you, John, for coming on and being guests. You know, this is the first of our sort of series, so you know, congrats on that one. But I think it's been really, you know, fascinating conversation. I mean, the dark web is like, I mean, they said we could probably talk for hours about all the nuances and different bits and pieces, but I said, just really appreciate you coming on, and thank you for being guests on our podcast.
Thank you very
much. Pleasure. Looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining this week's Game Set Matchup. Tune in to hear more about the need to knows and the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating successful business partnerships.